So when to apply, mostly it takes 6 to 8 months. So we have in Mr. Khurshid's chamber, we have 8 months, etc. I mean, people do apply in advance. Otherwise, we don't have any shortlisting policy. Mr. Khurshid's very clear that we don't want to have it because we don't want them to. He said it's inhuman to make students go through another screening process when they're already going through examinations, etc. But I think mostly the officers find it hard to get into that process because there are people with assigned roles, and I mean, you receive thousands of applications. You need a person to be just doing that. So that's not there. So either you apply sooner or you get in touch with somebody. It can be a junior, his junior, too, with whom you can follow up. So you email CC, so you get in touch with the junior secretary clerk. You email at the email ID. Again, there can be different email IDs. You need to find out which is the email ID where you can apply for internships. Otherwise, you never receive a reply and you'll never get to know why you didn't receive a reply. So you email at the assigned email ID. You CC a junior secretary or clerk. You find out who they are. It can be a little easier to get in touch with them, to directly go meet them, get their email ID, CC them, or directly go meet them and tell them, you know what, I want to do an internship. It's that simple. You can just go and tell them, I want to do an internship with so and so person. At the most, the person will say no, right? But it's easier. So the easiest way is to meet and talk, or talk over phone or email. So whichever way works, do it. But if you really want to get an internship, you do everything under the sun to get it. And then, of course, you follow. You contact someone who can get you in the door, as I told you, or it can be corridors of the Supreme Court. So you may be doing an internship with somebody, but you want to do it with a senior advocate who are already clear about it. You find the senior advocate in the corridors, or you're not clear about it, but you're clear you want to do a next internship with a senior advocate. You see somebody and you're like, oh, wow, no, I want to do it under him. You'd go and talk to him. But it can be tricky. So corridors of Supreme Court, SCBA cafeteria, these places can be tricky to talk about internships. You have to look for the right opportunity because there will be too many people around. There will be too many advocates around, a senior advocate craving for his attention. So they don't want somebody else to get his attention. All that happens. So in that case, how do you make room for yourself and have a very, very kind of, calm and peaceful discussion about something, and then you bring it up. So it can be the bar room. It can also be. So I've seen students who come for internships. They find out where any conference or lecture, etc., is happening during that time. They register for those, or they just walk in, and there are a lot of lectures happening at ILI. So you need to know about them. You need to find out beforehand, or when you're doing internships, you just have to keep your eyes open. So once you're in, mostly it's not invite only, students do come and them. So there after the lecture, you get an opportunity. But there's so many students these days. I remember once Siddharth Luthra was there, there were so many students who came to him that Mr. Luthra was, you go to her, she's a great lawyer, you go to. So that's a bad kind of situation to be in. At the most, during those situations, you can get his email ID, but otherwise you have to look for in the opportunity. So one way to do it is that before you approach them, you do your homework. And when I say you do your homework, you find out which cases they have. So sometimes you can also just wait for people to leave, and then you already know what you want to talk about. You go and you talk about that. So you need to do some homework. You need to find out what cases they have done. You need to find out what you like about them. So I think what to say is very important. You can't just go and say, oh, I want to do an internship. You can, but there will be more chances of you getting an internship because there's so many people who approach them on a daily basis. Even approaching them is so common that you really need to have something else. You need to be doing something else. So sometimes you get to hear arguments. So sometimes it so happens that during an internship, you actually hear someone arguing so well that you're like, I really want to do it. Then when you go and speak and you speak from your heart, so whatever comes out makes sense. And the person will never ever refuse it. I can guarantee you that. So you need to be able to speak your mind during those times. You need to be able to go to them and have the courage to talk, because I know there are students for whom it can be very difficult to go to senior advocate and talk. But do that, just for the sake of letting them know what you like about them. They like listening to it. Just go and communicate. I think that's a great way to start. So, and they remember you also. You don't know when you may be going to brief them at some stage. Even when you're a student, they would remember you after 3 4 years. You never know. You can make that impact as well, just by one conversation. You can have that impact on a person. So you can be very specific which case you like. When did you hear them? It can be in your previous internship. Never mind, go and talk to them. Uh, you make it interesting, make it authentic. Uh, After a certain age, all these things do matter. I mean, I get you may be thinking you can, there are people like, if somebody comes to me and says, oh, I like it, I'll be like, yeah, great. But after a certain age, I don't know why, but it does matter. People coming and telling you something, especially young generation coming and telling you something. It feels special. Like for you, it was feel special if somebody who was older to you will come and tell you. So that in either case, it's a good practice to do. You should do it. You read the judgments. You may have come across a judgment where they had argued really well. You have read the judgment, and you know, oh wow, this point that you made really made a difference in the case, etc. So, if you are really moved by something, I think you should really communicate. Because it's very difficult to make up and deceive. I mean, that you cannot. So, just be authentic. Um, if you think it's likely to be cut short, or you'll be interrupted by lawyers who are craving further attention, as I told you, then you tell them. You just begin a conversation. You say that this is what you like, but of course you're busy right now. So can you come and talk to you later? So you take an appointment from his clerk right there, and you meet them in their office or chamber, and then you have a detailed discussion. And then they may ask you which year are you in. Tell them internship. It's like I'm doing an internship with so and so. I'd like to do an internship with you. Most welcome. Okay, so I've already told you, keep looking for such conferences, read about the topic before attending. So I told you, during the post-lecture discussions can get very difficult because there's so many people with so many interests coming to them. So maybe reading about the topic before attending and then kind of showcasing your knowledge may be one of the ways of doing it. So there's a difference between information and knowledge. So mostly what students end up doing during these lectures or even during the high tea discussions is that they start telling about what they know, right? Now in doing that, you actually don't realize that what you are saying may be in the domain of information that they are not interested, even if they don't have those information. uh, People who have reached that stage may not be interested in getting information or in even appreciating, oh, you know so much, because it's in the domain of information that anybody can know, right? But if you talk about something that's in the domain of knowledge, which comes with a deeper understanding, that shows that you understand the subject, that you've read the subject, you get it, you have some insights to share. So you need to really dive deep into it, read more about it, go beyond what is generally said and written about it. Have your own ideas about it, have your own opinion about it. And then when you talk about it, that's what really impresses people. I'm talking about senior advocates. So it's not how much percentage of people would do something, etc., that would impress them really, but something like even though these many percentage of people do it, I think that this is what makes sense, etc., etc., something of that sort that you think uh, will impress them more than the information that is in the public domain. Okay. asking questions versus displaying in-depth knowledge and ability to analyze. So again, there are students who think if they ask questions, they can impress. That doesn't work. We can see through why you're asking question and that question doesn't make sense, or it's you're just asking because you think if you ask, it will make sense. But so instead of doing that, if you can display, even when you're asking a question, if you can display in-depth knowledge, not again just information, or so and so has said this. So many students do that, they quote somebody, that's information. So if you really liked your quote, there is a way to place it when you're presenting your thoughts. So your thoughts weaved in those codes, or those codes being weaved in your thoughts, there's a difference between that. So what you end up doing it, you make the code bigger, and then your thoughts somewhere crumble inside without making it seems like you're just showing off that you know that code and there's nothing underlying it. So just make that thought you have underlying thought that you have, make that bigger, and then weave the code into it.